Hey everybody, this is the Longhorn Confidential for Tuesday, September 3rd. I'm Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman. Cedric Golden's here. Thomas Jones is here. And we appreciate y'all being here, whether you're listening to however you get your podcast or watching us on YouTube or at statesman.com. We were recording this a few days after Texas opened its 2024 season with a 52 to nothing win over Colorado State. But there is absolutely no need to spend much time talking about the Rams. We're here, you're here because of this weekend's trip to the Big House. Now ranked third in both the AP and the coaches poll. Texas will be hosted on Saturday by Michigan, which is 10th in the AP, ninth in the coaches poll, and it matches between two of the five winningest programs in college football's history. Michigan's number one, Texas and Notre Dame are tied for number four. So lots of history between these two programs, even though they've only played once, and that was in that 2005 Rose Bowl. If you're watching at home, Fox has the game. It'll kick off at 11 o'clock Central Time. If you're making the trip to Ann Arbor, there's a high of 61 degrees. So maybe in the 50s at kickoff. So pack a light sweatshirt. It'll be nice if you wait to that game on Saturday. 61 is going to be a very nice change. But let's get into talking about the game. Um, Michigan is the defending national champion. They've won something, I think, 16 straight games, have a lengthy winning streak at home. Texas is the favorite in this game, and the favorite by about 6.5 points last time I checked. So, said we'll start with you. You were asking Steve this question asked a couple other players this question on Monday. Is Michigan being disrespected by that line, or should Texas be a legitimate 6.5 point favorite going into this weekend?
I don't think that the odds makers care about respect. They care about money, and they believe that that's going to be the line. I was on another website, betmgm.com. It's gone up to 7.5. And I'm just man, it's crazy to think that a defending national champion is a 7.5 point dog 2 games after it won the championship. So it speaks a lot to the respect for the Longhorns. It also speaks to the fact that Michigan is missing some key performers from last season, Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, to name two, and and Jim Harbaugh, the head coach. So I think Texas is a more experienced team, coaching wise, quarterback wise, and they have the better offensive line. I still think it's going to be a really good game. I don't think Texas is going to beat Michigan like they stole something. But the one thing I'll say before I hand it off to TJ is the nucleus from that team that whooped up on Alabama, a lot of those guys are still wearing burnt orange. So they are very confident, and they have a chance to go in there and win. And I'm taking them to win the game.
Thomas said, just hand the ball off to you like you're Jaden Blue. What do you think about that?
I'm probably more Jared Gibson, to be honest, based on where I'll be this weekend. I think they lost. Jim Harbaugh is a great college coach. Whether you like him or not, he is a great college football coach. They lost a first round draft pick at quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. They didn't look great. They beat Fresno State. Michigan beat them, what, 30-10? They pulled away late. I think the line's justified. I think the numbers don't lie. The money doesn't lie. I think Texas will cover if I was a betting guy. That defense for Michigan's salty, though. They really are. But the way that Texas defense flew around against a decent Colorado offense, I just don't see Michigan reaching 20 points, being honest. And I think Texas can manufacture 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I honestly thought the line's a little disrespectful. I know that's not how that stuff works. I mean, but Michigan's the defending champs, and they're in their own house, and they're going to have 107,000 people behind them, whereas opposed to Texas getting a couple, whatever they got allotted 6 tickets or whatever. Michigan decided to give Texas, or not, it's going to be a true home field advantage. Not to say that Texas can't win in an environment like that. They did it last year when they went to Alabama, obviously, but if I was a defending champ, that's all not that you should need much motivation, but that's plenty of bulletin board material. And you could tell with the way Steve answered your question on set that they're definitely not going in there, pounding their chest, acting like they're 7.5 point favorites. He was more than willing to sing the praises of the Wolverines and kind of what they've accomplished in their recent run. So, I don't know if we're doing picks on this podcast or not, which I should since I wrote the script, but I don't think Texas blows this one out. I think it's a close game. I think Texas wins, but I would say it's maybe another dusty Mangum, walk-off field goal kind of game, a 3-point game, not a 7.5 point game. So I thought that line was a little disrespectful, but Vegas is a lot better at making money than I am. So what do I know? As far as, the actual game itself, said who is one when you're in the press box at the big house on Saturday, who's one Wolverine you're going to be keeping an eye on? Who's one Wolverine the fans should at home should know about?
Look for Big Mason Graham in the middle of that line. He's their best lineman since Aiden Hutchins, and he's disruptive. He's agile. He's mobile, and he's one of those guys who seems to get his hands on the ball, which is kind of difficult for an interior lineman. So he's their best player. He's probably the best defensive tackle in the country. He anchors down that thing, and I don't expect Texas to try and run their heads up against a brick wall. If the run's not working, they've got plenty of other options at their disposal. But he's the guy that I think is going to really muck it up for the Horns, and as they try to establish a run game. And we all know that Sarkisian wants to run first and throw second. He wants to have that kind of balance. But if they are unable to run, it's going to be because of Mason Graham.
TJ, unfortunately, you don't get to go to the big house, but you'll be at your big house. So watching this game. Who are
Huge
you keeping
house,
an eye on?
huge house.
Y'all haven't been there, have you? Hey, I agree with Seth. I think Graham and Kenneth Grant is a big player to watch. Literally, he's 340 pounds. He's like a Devondre Sweat. But I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. Keep an eye on. I'm going to pick two guys because they kind of share the load at running back. Donovan Edwards and this Khalil Mullins had a really good game against Fresno State. He's a big back. He's like 6'2", 235. Michigan wants to pound you. They really just want to run it down your throat. They want to pound you. Last week, I thought the Texas defensive tackles against the Colorado State team that wasn't that great at running. I think they're okay. They weren't great. But Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, and all those bodies that rotate in on the inside, they're going to have their work cut out for them because Michigan will pound you, pound you. They'll get a lead, they'll pound you. If they fall behind, they'll pound you. They're not going to stop running the ball between the tackles. So keep an eye out, especially on Khalil Mullins. Big kid. Not a lot of people know him, but he's a really effective inside runner.
Of course, Donovan Edwards, if you're a video game fan, was on the cover of College Football 25 with Quinn Ewers, so that'll be a fun little subplot is seeing the cover boys go at it for both teams. I'm going to stay on offense. Davis Warren, the quarterback. He's a senior, did not play much his first 3 years at Michigan, but he won the starting job in the off season. They'll mix in their backup quarterback as well. They kind of, they did some two quarterback stuff in the Fresno State game, but this is a former walk-on who beat leukemia in high school. So this is not a kid who's going to be scared of the Texas
He's not
Longhorns.
scared. He's already been through something in his life.
He's been through some stuff that's bigger than the game of football. So
Yes, sir.
I kind of like that about him and just his mentality. And Michigan is not a team that needs someone to go out there and throw for 400 yards. He just needs to manage the game, not throw turnovers. He did have an interception in the Fresno State game, but I'd say keep an eye on him and just kind of what he's able to do directing this offense and what will be his second career start, which is a pretty big stage for a second career start. But I guess Quinn got that treatment 3 years ago in the Alabama game, getting your second big start against a top 5 team. So we'll see what he can do on offense for the Wolverines. On the Texas side, who is one Longhorn who you want to see more from? Obviously, in the Colorado State game, there are a lot of game balls to hand out. A lot of players played well, but who is one Longhorn you want to see more from? Thomas, we'll start with you.
I'm going to pick DeAndre Moore just because we met him for the first time on Monday. I like the kid and he plays really hard.
Super.
He didn't have a catch though. He had some nice downfield blocking. He started for the Longhorns in the slot receiver position. Texas is going to go up against arguably the best secondary in the nation this weekend, and they're going to need all 5-6 guys that they have rotating in at receiver to get a couple of catches. I really want to see what DeAndre Moore can do in the slot. Can he make some plays after the catch? I think that's going to be real critical. You need to be able to turn a 6-yard gain into a first down against Michigan. So I'm going to keep an eye on DeAndre Moore.
Said who are your eyes on? Who do you need to see more from?
I'm going to pick 2. Trey Moore, Barron Sorrell. Where were y'all? They didn't really make an impact on the game. they held up their water, but 0 sacks. And I know that the other team only threw 18 times, but even if there's only 18 throws, there got to be more pressures. This is a vaunted pass rush potentially with Moore, Sorrell, Ethan Burke, Colin Simmons, Colton Vacek. Those are some really talented cats. So this is an inexperienced quarterback, and they need to get after him, and they need to change his mode of thinking. They need to take him out of his comfort zone. Remember how comfortable Michael Penix was in the Sugar Bowl? I'm not saying that Davis Warren is Michael Penix, but I'm saying that any quarterback that gets comfortable can hurt you. So they need to get their pass rushing shoes on and speed that clock up in his head and make him think about more than just completing passes. I think the pass rush, I think Michigan's gonna run the football. Like Thomas said, Michigan will run that football all day long. But on those times that they pass, on those second and longs and all that, Texas is gonna have to bring the heat and get him off his spots and make him think about, man, they just put me on my back. I don't want to go back there again. So those two pass rushers are going to be important this weekend.
Yeah, I was originally thinking about maybe going with Jade just because Will Johnson's on the Michigan sideline, and that's one of the top cornerbacks in the nation. And I'm kind of, see what Texas's top cornerback has by comparison. But I also don't think he's going to be the busiest guy in the weekend just because Michigan's going to run the ball a lot more. I'm going to go with Cam Williams, who Thomas is writing about this week. We're recording this on Tuesday. This will be in Wednesday's newspaper. His story on Cam, and what a debut for him over at right tackle. I mean, he started once before the season. He got to start against Colorado State, won the co-SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week award, and obviously that's a great start. But he's still kind of the unproven asset on that offensive line. And it's not like he's going to be going up against Mason Graham since he's a tackle. But I do kind of just want to see more from him and his growth and kind of how he fits in on a veteran offensive line because he is the Christian Jones replacement, the new guy on the line, although he does have plenty of experience and a couple of awards on his resume. So I want to see what big Cam Williams has in this second game when he goes up to Michigan. This Michigan game, it's been announced in 2014. So this is 10 years in the making. A lot of people have been excited for this game. Texas over the last 10 years has not been scared to have some marquee fun games for its fans to travel to, whether it was going to Notre Dame about 10 years ago, going to USC in 2000, that was 2018, 2019, 2018. You had the Alabama game, obviously, last year. If CDC gave you a call, we'll end this one up with a little bit of fun. If CDC gave you a call and was like, hey, who should I schedule? What would be a fun matchup for Texas Longhorn fans to go to? Ohio State's obviously next year, and Texas now gets to go to some SEC stadiums. Who would you pick? What's the marquee matchup you would like to see the Texas Longhorns play?
It's been a minute since they played Penn State. Penn State's a Big Ten, a Big Ten traditional power, and State College is a college football hotbed. And I've heard Kirk Bowles and Mark Rosner talk about the trip up there and how great the atmosphere was. And I think that would be cool. Especially non-conference before it gets too cold up there. So I think Penn State would be a fun game. They've already played USC again. They played Michigan again. So I think Penn State would be a nice matchup.
TJ?
I've thought way too much about this, which is sad. But okay, the way college football is structured now, the Big Ten and SEC, obviously, the two power conferences. I think the SEC and the Big Ten should have this kind of invitational, so to speak, every non-conference and kind of rotate things. I think Texas should play Penn State, Ohio State, a Michigan, a USC, an Oregon, a Washington. Play one of those type of teams every year. And I wish all SEC teams would do that instead of playing Fordham or Mumford College or whoever Auburn and Tennessee opened with. But I also want to see Texas keep some of that Southwest Conference Big 12 history alive. I'd love to see them play a Tech or a Baylor or a TCU. Can they do both? I don't know. Why not?
I'll be honest, if I never have to go to Lubbock again in my life, I'll be more than fine with that. And I'm sure there are a lot of Texas fans who agree with me on that.
You're a true Austinite now if you're saying that. That is.
And here's the thing: the chances of that happening are better now because you can still lose a game
exactly
and make the CFP because it's all about.
Absolutely agree.
Well, I would say I don't think the chance of them ever going back to Lubbock, as long as this current administration is in charge, are slim to none. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But
It may not be long considering they're going overtime with Abilene Christian, you know.
I
Ooh,
would
52-51. They
yeah,
almost pulled a shock on them.
I would pick well, aside from Montana, which I will point out has beaten Washington more times in the last 3 years than Texas has. Um, I would like to see them play Oregon, just because I think the Ducks are fun. It's kind of an NIL superpower over there against Texas. You'll get some crazy jerseys from Oregon. You know, but I also don't want to go to the West Coast anymore because those West Coast games are brutal. If you remember the USC game, or Cal the year before, 2016, 2017, those were some late nights for us if you hadn't adjusted from the central time zone traveling from. But I'm actually gonna go with Wisconsin. ESPN ranked a bunch of stadiums at the end of the summer, and Cam Brandel, I think, was number 8 on that list. And I'm a child of the 90s, and so the fact that they play House of Pain, jump around, that's their big tradition over there. I'll probably be doing that a little bit in the press box, maybe bumping y'all on press row, getting a little messy up there. But that just seems like a fun thing to take in. And obviously, Wisconsin, not the powerhouse it was a few years ago, but maybe that since these are scheduled 10 years out in advance, maybe they'd be back to being relevant by the time Texas went up there. Texas actually hasn't played them since 1939, which is a few years
Wow.
ago. But that'd
That
be
was the same year the Aggies won a national championship.
that's just kind of deep. I've been told we have some Aggie readers at thestatesman.com, but I don't know if they're watching the Longhorn Confidential. But if
I
they
just gave
are,
them. I hope they are. I just gave them a shout out. Come on now.
there you go. All right, but that's going to do it for us. We have a lot coming on statesman.com throughout this week as we get ready for this Michigan game, which I'm sure is going to have a little bit of interest, including the Second Thought podcast, which relaunched last week. Said, what are we talking about this week on Second Thought?
We're going to have Detroit Free Press columnist Sean Windsor on. He's going to give us a peek behind that Michigan curtain. And we might have a surprise guest. I'm working on a column, so that's going to run Thursday. We may have a surprise guest that everyone will recognize.
Hey, quick note on Sean. My neighbor here in East Austin grew up with Sean and outside of Champaign, Illinois. So Sean's a good guy. Y'all read his stuff this week in the build-up.
Well, there you go. Tell your neighbor to download the On Second Thought podcast on Thursday when it drops. And we'll have plenty of stuff throughout the week on statesman.com, including David Eckert. Just joined our team this week, coming over from the Clarion Ledger, covered Ole Miss for a while. So be sure to read his stuff. At some point, we'll introduce y'all to him on the Longhorn Confidential.
It's
But
coming.
yeah, that's gonna do it for us. We appreciate y'all listening wherever you get your podcast, watching us on YouTube. Me and Ted have to go get ready. We have a fantasy football draft in a couple hours, so we gotta go get ready for that. And we hope you all have a good rest of your day. And well, we'll see you in Ann Arbor. Deuces.